Hey, you wild women. Renee here, coming back from Japan. We are, 48 hours back. Let me tell you, I'm a little jet lagged, but I'm okay, surviving. I think my husband is actually in bed right now. If you've never been to Japan, go. And if you've been to Japan, I really hope you loved it as much as I did. The food, the people, the sights, everything was so cool. And what an incredible country to visit. Today, we're not talking about Japan though, because I get asked this a lot when it comes to what is the point of doing public relations, PR? And really, what it comes down to is building authority. And so, what I believe authority is the person that sets the standard for the thing that they do in the market. You think about anybody that is an authority figure, they are the ones that are setting the standards, they're innovating, they're creating stuff in their field that's unique, and they're putting themselves out there. A lot of us think that you don't have the capability or the capacity to be able to do this yourself. And I disagree. I think everybody does. The problem is that most people get it wrong because they give up way too soon. Am I right or am I right? People give up way too soon. This could be you, an example of going to the gym or eating right or trying to get to bed earlier. All these things is good for a week, and then our motivation wanes. And that's why the people that are succeeding in their field as athletes in business, they are succeeding because they know what it means to build that authority. They know what it means to get ahead. And so today I want to talk to you about 6 quick things that you can jot down right now on how to build authority, but really what this means for you and your business. Because I do know this, the people that are in the business of putting themselves out there and becoming that go-to expert in the industry, not only garner better media attention and are asked to be on podcasts, they make more money. Because when you position yourself as the expert in the space, like I do with PR, it allows me and allows you to charge more because people build and they've developed the trust for you. You have a reputation because if you're talking about the stuff and you're teaching people all the time about the thing that you do really, really well, you can charge more for it. It's not necessarily a thing you can just do overnight. You can't just go from charging 5K to 10K overnight. Maybe you can, but the reality is that you have to put in the time. You need to have skin in the game. So here are the things I want you to jot down right now. Or remember, if you're driving or working out, the things that you need to do to build authority. So number 1 is stand for something, have an opinion, have a perspective on something, and constantly share that content online. This helps to build the credibility, trust. It allows you to differentiate yourself from your competitors and from what other people are doing. You see, when you stand for something, you give your audience a reason to choose you over others. Thereby, this establishes and forms the authority in your niche. So you need to stand for something. I used to be afraid to talk about PR because I was a little traumatized from my last agency. But also, it's like to jump back in the game after a 3-year sabbatical, people kept asking me what my wins were as of late. And I said, well, I can tell you what my wins were back then, but not today. And so I was really afraid to actually shine my light on it. So when I finally started sharing content and secret tips and tricks on how to do PR, to build authority, how to pitch the media, the state of the industry, people started to pay attention. And what happens is that the more I talk about it, and I'm likable and trustworthy online, is the more people will come to me by default if they're looking to hire someone or they need to recommend somebody for PR. So when you stand for something, it definitely sets you apart from other people that are doing something similar. So the other thing too, which isn't like a must have, but it definitely helps, is to build a brand identity. So build something about you that people can recognize. It could be, yes, fonts and colors and website. That stuff is important. It's not the only thing that you need to do, but if you do have the capacity to be able to build a pretty brand, then do it. We just relaunched the podcast. So we got a shiny new cover and some new descriptions and new guests that are coming on the show. Some really cool things that we're doing. Part of the relaunch was to establish a deeper brand identity for myself, my personal brand on the show, because That way it stands out. What this does is it allows us to become more recognized, more memorable. It allows us to build connections, and we become more reliable in a sense and trustworthy. So you see, when you go to, we'll say, an Instagram account, and there's just kind of, unless you've already established the authority and you're not really anybody, and you see an account that's just messy and it talks about a bunch of different things and different fonts and weird colors, and there's no consistency, it actually makes it harder for somebody to trust that brand and to trust that person. So consistency is another thing. We'll talk about that in a moment. But in building a unique brand identity, it's also like the cloak you wear, or like the other alter ego hat that you might put on. It's about your story, about your ethos. It's about what you stand for. So your brand identity, beyond what it looks like, it's how do people feel when they show up? How do people feel when they hear you on podcasts or when they read your content? That's all in the brand. You know, when people are like the really loud people out there on social, and all of a sudden, you know, they're posting all this stuff and they're loud and they're charismatic. And then say they posted a couple posts or stories or videos about them and they were more quiet and still, it would be weird because that's just not who they are. And so the brand identity is really who you are at the core. And if you actually go with that, with who you are, it makes showing up a hell of a lot easier. It makes you show up with authority and conviction and excitement because there is no second guessing what it is that you're trying to achieve, and you're not trying to be somebody else. Because the more you lie about something when it comes to your story and your brand, the harder it is to actually uphold the image you're trying to create. And then you tell lies, and then you start believing your own lies, and then you no longer know the truth to one extreme. But in order to actually get ahead, if you want to be positioned as an authority in your industry, you do need to develop a brand identity. That is something that we do within We Wild Women, either through our retainer-based program or our VIP days. So the next thing is you need to master content creation and distribution. This takes a while. You can't just all of a sudden overnight have 1 million new followers unless you've done something pretty crazy. So this is important that you choose the right platforms. If you have the capacity to extend beyond 1 or 2 platforms, great. But what I suggest to most people that are starting out or growing is choose one platform and dominate it. So we used to be on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and it just got overwhelming because we didn't have the team in place yet. So we had to pull back on TikTok. And so now we're Instagram and we're on YouTube again, and we're starting up on LinkedIn. And starting up means that we're taking some intentional time to create content that is meaningful to the people, to the community. But mastering the content creation and the distribution is one of the only things today in this crazy world of media that will be the ultimate foot in the door to get you on more podcasts and in the media. You need to be creating content all the time, consistently, publishing it, looking at what works, not doing what doesn't work again. Like we actually just looked at our podcast analytics again this morning to see what content are people actually consuming. And it's not to say that the content of the episode isn't good. Sometimes the titles aren't great, so people aren't interested. So in going through that data, now we know the type of content people like. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to consistently reproduce the content that people want to hear. Now, if you're in a growth stage, you really got to stand for something. So pick a theme, the topics you're going to talk about. It could be 2 or 3 different things. And then start brainstorming the content that you want to create around those topics. Test it out. Do some reels, do some stories, shoot some videos, get a YouTube channel going. You don't have to complicate it. The point is, you have to create the presence online. The distribution is important. We are becoming our own media companies. The world of media is changing so much that we actually have the power within our hands, literally, to create our own and be our own media companies. And so if you want to do anything in the world of PR to actually hit some home runs, unless you're inventing something completely new or you're going to change the world on some level, you do need to have a presence online. and creating great content is the way to go. So the next thing is leveraging social proof. These are like reviews, testimonials, endorsements. You want to share what people are saying about you because people buy from those they know, like, and trust. Reviews and testimonials are huge. They want to know what people are saying, why they're saying that about you, and that is an important decision maker in either following you on social, having you as a guest on their podcast, interviewing you for an article for a magazine, or doing business with you. Social proof is huge. And now, if you're in a business that doesn't have that yet, ask that from your first customers. You can even write it for them and ask them to approve it. But this is also a forcing function for you to do really great work so that you get those reviews and those testimonials. It should be the table stakes anyway. So share those. I would say once a week. And you know what you can do? You can even repeat the shares from a month ago because people don't really scroll past the 9th or 12th post on your social account and they will forget what was said a month ago. So don't feel ashamed in reusing some of the stuff that you've already posted. So the next thing in building authority is networking. This actually probably should have been number one. And why I say that is because I went through a season, COVID aside, I went through a season where I just was not motivated to go out to events and to socialize or to speak on stages. I wasn't motivated. Now, what happened with my business and my following, it went stagnant. The moment I decided to commit to a social event a week, this week I'm going to 2 to speak on more stages, was the moment that my social following started to grow, but I actually started to get more customers. And for a lot of us, it can be exhausting. Maybe there's not a lot of opportunity in our area, or there's not a lot of opportunity in your community to actually go to these events. But if that's the case, guess what? Create it. It also means that you're going to have to get on a plane and go places or jump in your car and drive. If you aren't intentionally creating or attending these events, your business will just go sideways or backwards. Networking is huge. Now, if you're in a crazy remote area, then create online digital events or attend them and network as much as possible. The other thing you can do too is network in the DMs. I think like the best thing that you can do is to be somebody's cheerleader on social. And this could be a potential customer, or it could be a potential journalist or writer or partner or someone you're going to collaborate with. If you can't physically be in a place, then I'd say make it intentional to go online to do this. And it's not hard. It's like going in and having a conversation you would have if you were having coffee with a friend. So the next thing is about being consistent, staying adaptable to market changes and evolving consumer needs. But adaptability and consistency, they go hand in hand. So when you're consistent in showing up, when you're consistent in pitching the media, when you're consistent in, developing brand strategy for yourself, the easier everything becomes for you. And yes, it gets boring. Yes, it gets mundane. And there are days when you're like, I'm done, tapping out, throwing in the towel. That's okay. Everybody experiences those. Every single person on the planet has those days and those moments. But guess what? The winning is done on the days that you don't want to be there. That last rep at the gym, you don't want to do it, but that's the one that counts. Recording an episode at the 11th hour, that's the rep that counts. Sending out that last pitch or that last follow-up or finding more people to reach out to, that consistency. You think about anybody that's successful in business, and I'm going to go and use my husband as an example, Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, Lori Harder, Jackie Service, my friend Jackie. These people, despite their success today, they still show up. They still create events, speak at events, share content online, even though they don't have to. And a lot of it is because they love what they do with conviction. And because of that consistency, they're establishing that authority. And the last thing in all of this is to create a killer and sustainable PR strategy. Because the more you can amplify everything that you're creating, the more you can amplify your stories, your brand, your content by way of being featured, interviewed, commented, quoted, shared online, the more it will blow up your brand. But also note, that this PR part of this actually probably takes the most amount of time, but it is the one thing that can really skyrocket that authority. Now, as a longtime listener, you probably already know this. This is what we do. This is our bread and butter, is creating sustainable PR strategies through our Authority Booster Intensive. And I would be so honored to be able to work with you. There are free resources on our website, wewildwomen.com, if you go into freebies, to show you kind of how to do this. But it's this very simple reason why you need to start doing PR, because anybody can do it. Anybody has the power to do it. It's free. It's free. There's so many incredible free tons of resources online to teach you how to write the pitch, when to follow up. But here's what I know. If you're in a business that is not in PR, while you can learn how to do it, it is not in your best interest to do the things just to save a buck, because you're going to end up wasting time. What we have in-house, we have a journalist on retainer. Her name is Jill, and she reviews all of the content that we pitch. We have a team, former editor for a magazine, who is writing pitches for clients, and she helps with those VIP days. You have me, who've been pitching the media since 2012 and have had all the wins under my belt. So we know how to do the job better and faster. So if you're interested in working with me and hiring We Wild Women to do your VIP day, simply go to wewildwomen.com and check out our programs. Or the best way to reach me, and I don't often share this, but you can go to info and shoot us a quick email, info@wewildwomen.com, and then just tell me a little bit about your business and we can jam. So more information at wewildwomen.com, or email me info@wewildwomen.com, and we can chat about building out that strategy so that you can build the authority, so you can become the industry recognized leader, so that you can get paid more and have more fun and buy back your time.